you're ready. Hello and welcome to the show. I am so excited to be joined here today where we're diving deep into sales, where we're diving deep into what does it take to really position ourselves and our service and our team so that we can show up in a way that frankly people know who we are and they can connect with us as we go through the process of making the sale. How do we do so with authenticity? How do we not lose touch with what the customer was originally having an issue with? And I'm so excited to have the one and only Joe Crisara. Crisara, did I say your last name right? Crisara.
Crisara, either way. I'm good
Sarah.
either way, but you just
Perfect.
call me Joe. Call me Uncle Joe. You know?
Uncle Joe. I love that. All right, Uncle Joe, that's much better. I
Uh-huh.
love that. Uncle Joe, you've lived quite a life. You are globally recognized sales educator, entrepreneur, founder of ServiceMVP, and you've been working for more than 40 years with professionals, home service professionals, to really help them kind of transform the way that they're talking about their problem. This is something I've seen so often that those who are experts in their craft actually don't know how to talk about it. And so I'm very grateful that you're here. Thank you for joining us today.
Well, thank you, Christine. I've been looking forward to this for many months, and we both worked hard to make this happen, and I'm glad we did. Thank you for being here. I
Yes.
appreciate you. I appreciate the effort you make for all the viewers here too. I think they're very fortunate to have somebody like you put the effort in. So thank you for being here.
Well, thank you, Joe. I know that you've had quite a journey to get to where you are today, and the 40 years. I'd love to know what are out of the looking back. Let's look back over the transformation that you yourself have gone through as you've clarified your own services and the way that you kind of show up for home service professionals. What have you found to be the number one transformation that you yourself have moved through to help clarify your message?
I think most of the success I have is because of the challenges that I have to face, right? So I would say this, one of my favorite stories or movies was the story of Tombstone with Val Kilmer when he played Doc Holliday and all that, and Kurt Russell, because it was a great story because they tried to say, I'm going to get out of law enforcement, just go out in Arizona and just hide out and get away from conflict. Well, sure enough, the Ike Clanton gang was down there, and so that's like, all right, that's it. We got to get involved, and I think you can run from conflict or run from the problems you have, but it's when we willingly gaslight ourselves. So I think a lot of the things, probably one of the most impactful things, was that I thought I knew how to sell my services, like anybody who uh, is in business thinks like who could better sell my services than me. I know what I'm doing. I'm a master of my trade. I've got my stuff together, and people like me too. I mean, they get along with me. So I thought I had it made, but I didn't realize that I didn't know anything about really how to create value. I thought creating value was I got to be, got to price it correctly or get the price right or find out what other people are charging and then just charge a little bit less. That was my way of creating value at the time. And that drove me back in 1991 about 500,000 in debt. And because of financial stress, it made us go through a nasty divorce that it was just one of the worst things that ever happened in my life. And then one of my clients, here's the most impactful thing I said. I guess it comes down to this long story short, which is too late for that. Is that my one of my clients? His name was Dave. I'll just call him Dave. He passed away in 2008, but he said, Joe, why are you always lowering your price to give? I didn't even ask you for a discount, and you're giving me a lower price. I said, well, Dave, I'm just trying to do you a favor. And he's like, Joe, you're not doing me a favor when you lower the price. You're just going to cut corners on something to lower the price. You can't afford it. I said, you're not living. This isn't a get rich quick scheme. You're a plumber, an air conditioning guy, or the stuff I did. I was a blue collar guy. He goes, you're not. This is not a get rich quick scheme. You got to stop lowering your price and start creating higher value. And then he started telling me about there's a whole thing where pharmaceutical companies and other people learned how to like open up a business or create a new drug and get the client to tell the doctor they should get it. Like how do you get a new drug where they don't there's marketing is just tell your doctor to start using using this thing. So he's like, "You can do that with plumbing and heating and air." I said, "Really? How do you do that?" He's like, then he showed me. And so, I was $500,000 in debt in 1991, had to pay half my business to my wife, who I went through a divorce with, and pay
Mm,
child support and all that stuff at the same time, because all happening right at the same time. And within by 1994, Christine, January of 2000 of 1991, I was 500,000 in debt, all that carnage. By December of 1994, I was debt free. And the reason was what Dave told me. He's like, "Joe, you need to offer people options, not ultimatums." So, when you think you have to be competitive on the price, you're wrong. You don't have to be. There's many people who sell a service or a restaurant at a hotel or other things where they don't have a lower price. They have the highest price, and people still book the hotel. Or the Los I live in Los Angeles. The Dodgers game is the highest ticket in town, but 53,000 people pay it gladly, you know?
yeah.
So it's not always, what I think it is. So I think it's counterintuitive to what people think, and that's what I'm here to kinda clear up some of those misconceptions and help and serve, the people who are watching us today. I can't
Mhm.
wait to help serve them because I don't want to the smartest people, Christine, are the ones who avoid that pain rather than suffer it and then have to recover. So that's why
Right.
I'm here to do. I'm here to help you live vicariously through the failures that I had, so you don't have to do them yourself. That's what I'm passionate about, honestly. You know.
I love that. I love
Mhm.
that. Well, and we were talking in the green room, and you just mentioned your there's there's an honor and a privilege to have the opportunity to convey what's on our heart. And I know that you've got a lot kind of bubbling up, and frankly, you've got a lot of the stories that come from you do monthly training. So you've got
Mhm.
real time case studies on a very regular basis where you're seeing your students put into practice what you're learning. So you've shared a little bit about your transformation, which I'm so grateful for. You mentioned something that I wanted to kind of pause on. You said, you created effectively services based on your internal transformation and where you've kind of evolved from. But you said something that made me pause around gaslighting yourself and how we can have a propensity to do that. Can you kind of talk through what you mean by that?
Well, I think it's the number one problem in life, honestly, is that, it's like people would say, "That guy's a liar," or "That woman's a liar." But you know what? Everybody look in the mirror, because the biggest lie we tell is to ourselves, Christine. We think, "It's gonna turn around soon." All I can say is this: if you're doing the same thing that got you to where you're at, you have to, if you wanna get results that you've never gotten before, you have to do something you've never done before. Does that make make sense? And so you can't do the same thing and try to get out of the existing problem that you created with this action that you got there with. And so sometimes we just think that it's going to turn around, or I don't have enough money, I don't have enough time. The greatest hits of dysfunction loves routine, Christine, and we are willing participants in that routine. And I think sometimes it takes somebody like me or you to kind with care, respect, and support, uh, to send the message with the right tone that the truth is maybe hard to hear, but it is necessary for us to be able to change from where we are to where we want to be. Does that make sense?
Do you find What do you find is, like, if you were going to guide people with the number one quality that is necessary to allow for that kind of change, what would you say?
I say it's courage, uh, because there are people in our lives and things in our lives that are going to have to change. We have to be able to master the art of abandonment, and be willing to start over in a way, and that takes courage. So I think courage is underrated. Um, they think there's heroes that climb the towers of 911 to save lives. Well, there's plenty of people out there now who need saving of themselves, and that takes just as much courage, because we all have our burning towers inside inside of our life that we need to be able to rescue ourselves, I think. And that's really, it does take courage for that, because there's a lot of people we like, a lot of things we like that we would have to give up, to be able to move to something better or new. Does that make sense? The familiar is the
Right.
thing that holds us back in a way. Does that make sense, Christine?
So true. Well, and it's the fear of the uncertainty that follows the discomfort of trying something new. We don't know what it's going to be like. And frankly, in the chat someone was mentioning about divorce, and just kind of double clicking on that, it actually requires so much courage to move through something like that, and sometimes it requires just as much courage to stay. But any real change where you're willing to look in the mirror and take action that is different than what we're used to, programmed to do. And it really does start at that internal level of changing the mindset and changing that program. So when you're working with people on sales, a lot of times I've heard this, and I've experienced it to an extent. I'm not, a salesman, but I've heard a lot that a lot of times the limiting beliefs are the number one things that can really get in the way from somebody being able to get to that next level in salesmanship. What would you say? Would you agree with that?
I completely agree. If here's a truth, Christine, nobody can sell or even offer something that they don't believe in. Make sense? So if you don't believe yourself that the solution you have is worth it, or you put a value, your own value on it, you can't expect your client to think it's worth it as well. So the second you start thinking, maybe I should lower my price, or maybe I should, listen, there's a cost to doing business, and that's a reality. When we gaslight ourselves into thinking, well, maybe I'll just lower my price to get more business for now, and then when I get more business, I'll raise my price later. That's the biggest lie that you're ever telling yourself. As soon as you lower your price, you're not able, you lack, you're already telling us you lack the ability to create high value. And sales isn't about you doing something for somebody, it's about serving people to create obligation. So I don't believe anybody can sell another person. I do believe you can create an environment where your client sells themselves on you being a solution. Does that make sense? Like, I can't sell you, Christine, but I can create an environment where you sell yourself on me. And that's really what's the best sales are about. It's authentic, it's real, and it makes me believe in my service when other people believe in me too. So it kind of propagates, the things I teach. But one of the challenges are, Christine, the things I teach have such depth that it is difficult to get people's mind around it, and it does mean that they would have to change. Does that make sense? So that is,
Yeah, yeah.
that's
Okay, well
the thing.
let's go to some of those depths. So
Mhm,
y'all, just for context, I let Joe know that I think we're the right audience for him to go and traverse some of these deeper places. We don't normally get to these topics, usually in business context, much less
mhm.
so in home services context. But I'm excited to give it a go. So would you take us?
Listen. Everybody, I would say this: there's a higher power and a lower power. If you believe in a higher power, like you obviously do, and this is the first podcast I've ever heard start with a prayer, and I love that. I think it's a great, the Serenity Prayer for me is one of the most underrated prayers of all time. So that's my favorite prayer. And we can even do it before we leave if you want to later on. But here's what I would say: if you believe in a higher power, then you also have to believe that if it's higher, there's got to be a lower power. And I
Hmm.
think I think that, um, let's put it this way to everybody. This is a lesson we can learn. We can talk about if you want to today. That if you believe in a higher power, then the higher power, is there, but there's also a lower power, and the lower power takes no effort to do something with. So, not taking action, not serving other people, not connecting with your community or with other people who know more than you do, that's a lower power, just staying the same.
Hmm.
Changing and doing a service for someone, uh, me coming here to serve your audience, you serving your audience through this podcast. That's free. It doesn't cost. It doesn't. We aren't making any money off of this, but we do realize that that's a higher power, because you're connecting. I believe the higher power is the connection we have with other people, and being of service is a higher power. I feel the ultimate higher power, and I think if you are of service first and you connect with other people, that all the riches and rewards then come back to you 10 times or 1,000 times.
Yeah.
Interesting,
So,
isn't it?
well, I like that. I've never heard anybody talk about it in that way. So I like hearing that framework of, as you were talking, it reminded me of David Hawkins' book, Letting Go, where he talks about effectively assigning numerical values to emotions. And to increase the emotional state that you're in, you can kind of move up in terms of those numerical values to, you see somebody in shame or guilt, and there's just a little bit more of like a hunched over, closed off type of impression that you get from encountering them. And then as they move into courage, that's level 200, gratitude, and then joy and love, you just keep increasing. So to your point around the change and the transformation within that kind of internal ability to come forward and do business and engage with other people, now I'm actually moving out of shame and I'm actually able to think about others. That fundamentally lifts me up in that kind of emotional state, but also to that point around, are we actually doing it for the good of someone else or from the place of selfish ambition? And so I'm
It's
curious. Yeah, please.
Yeah, I call that pure motives. So pure
Mm,
motives are something that is the intrinsic motivation as to that. Again, go back to you can't sell something you don't believe in. If the motivation is just the paycheck, let's put it this way: if the motivation is something outside of us, money, I want to get this house, I want to, I just want to go on this vacation. I need to make more money for this. If that's the motivation for me to serve you, it's not going to work. It has to be inside the motivation to help somebody feel more secure, or to help somebody feel like safer, or to help somebody feel that let's do this in a high quality way, or to be reliable. Honesty is a higher pure motive. I call it. I'm just want to make sure I'm thoughtful and I answer in the most honest way, even though it may be hard to hear, to prepare people for an honest message so it doesn't come up too abrupt. That's a service that, um, if you're good at it, then you're going to be good at sales. If you're good at doing the fine details, listening, uh, making sure you understand, and then trying to get your point across, but do it with care, respect, and support. I feel like um, that's an extra service you're providing that creates obligation, which I don't really do from an extrinsic motivation. I do it because what's in my heart, and I think that's hopefully comes across to my people I work with, and just are friends with. Honestly, I mean, you don't have to pay me to be a friend. I give that to you for free.
I love it.
It
Well,
doesn't,
and
doesn't come
that's
there,
kind of a hard that's kind of a hard line, I would imagine, Joe, because I would imagine you've got these services where you're teaching people how to increase their sales, how to improve their messaging, etc. And I can only imagine how many people come to you asking for free advice. And I'm sure, I know for a lot of people with service businesses, it's, oh, do you just mind, do you want to come over for dinner? Oh, do you mind taking a look at my toilet? Or do you mind, cutting my hair? Like, it extends beyond just home services to services in general, where how do you protect yourself from getting kind of used and abused in that way?
I don't protect myself at all from connecting with other people. So you'll be happy to know anybody can call me or contact me, and I'll be happy to serve you. Here's the thing about what I teach, because it is that gaslighting thing I talked about earlier. Even if I tell somebody exactly what to do, like I have a book called "What Should We Do." It's got the Amazon bestseller. It has over 250,000 copies that are sold, and it's 432 pages. It's not watered down, Christine. It's real things that you do, like the science of pricing and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Uh, it's in there. So people are like, "Aren't you giving away everything in that book for 25 bucks?" And I'm like,
Yeah.
"Well, listen. You could read that book and you could know what to do, but having the courage to do it is where you need a coach like me, because this way you feel like you have support as you're going through those difficult choices to change.
Mm.
it takes somebody. So I could give all the information in the world that people want, but doing something with the information is the part that people say, I'll get around to it, or I'll,
Hmm.
yeah, someday I'm going to start. Whenever somebody says, yeah, someday I got to try that, it's like, that means you're not going to try it, you know? So
Yeah,
it's like,
that's so
I'm kind of like, well, I'm one of the people who will call out a mistruth, but in a way that makes you'll laugh, like when I say it. Like I'll be like, so when you say try, that means not gonna do it, right? Is that what you're trying to tell me? Oh, will you shut up, Joe? You know, so it's like, you know, in a way, I try to be as friendly as possible, but I'm also honest. I try to be as honest as I possibly can, which can be sometimes devastating if you present. I think sales is the way we present the information, right? So if I present honesty in a way that's brutal,
right.
it's not going to help anybody because they just think what
So
an
good.
a-hole this guy is. But
Yeah.
if I present it in a way that's kind, caring, and respectful, it's like, man,
Yes.
that's a great message you sent to me. That's so, so
Mhm.
it looks like wisdom emerges there. Mistake, makes sense, Christine?
Yes, it does. It does.
Uh,
I'm thinking about this, Joe, for someone who is seeking to strengthen their sales capability. Let's say that, because it has so much more to do with just the overall empathetic ability to connect with people, and it has not so much to do with every person that I've ever talked to who says to be good at sales, you have to. They always emphasize the ability to have empathy, be authentic, sit with the other person. You're actually not trying to sell them. But the thing that you've added in here is this element of courage that I really appreciate. So, how would you encourage somebody to kind of level up and step into that greater degree of courage of being brave enough to try something and being brave enough to actually put into practice that head knowledge?
well, it's a good question, Christine, and I'm glad you asked it. I think I think it comes from not taking too big of a step. You know, I think the small steps we take that we do get a foothold makes us more certain that we're on the right path. You know, I think
Yeah.
if the first steps we take are too much, then we slip with those steps, and we're like, oh my gosh, I'll never. There's no way I can even do this. This is, you know, I'm not good with the gift of gab, or they start building in their own excuses or reasons
Yes.
why it won't work well because they tried too much. They went to the most advanced part of it, where it's like, I love what you said before about sharing gratitude. It's like, can I just say thank you for inviting me on the show, Christine, and the effort you took to reschedule this like 4 times. It was amazing. You stood with me. I appreciate you doing that. But you know, it's like gratitude is easy to do and
Mhm.
it always gets a foothold. I think it's one of those things that you're not gonna hurt yourself when you share gratitude, real meaningful gratitude about something, and you are sincere about it, and it's real.
Mhm.
I think that's a good place to start, right? And I think that's the
Mhm.
connecting. So connecting is hard. I will tell you a story though. We use AI. I have companies that now use AI to monitor the workforce. And of course, they teach everybody, hey, we need to ask people their first name, like, who do I have the pleasure of speaking with? Right. And
Yeah.
my name's Christine. And I say, can I call you Christine? What can I call you Christine?
Yes.
And my name is Joe. I'm with Service MVP, and I'm here to help you create high value today. Thank you for inviting me to this opportunity. Like that alone, right? I say,
Yeah.
"Hey, can we all learn that?" And then we all role play it and learn it. And then I just monitored a team that has 175 employees that learned that process.
Mhm.
Guess how many people did that part of the call when we monitored all 175 people?
7 or 8.
0. It's like not one.
Wow.
And when I asked the AI program, "How many people have used the first name of the client?" 0. I'm like, "What are they doing
Wow.
out there?" I said, and then they're out there for like 2 hours straight. I'm like, "What were they doing out there?" Well, we're talking about the technical problems, the technical solutions. They're giving prices early in the call as opposed to waiting to get all the information and then presenting the
Mhm.
problems, solutions,
Yeah.
and the price. So there's a lot of things there that, like I said, even when you train a professional group that gets
God.
the training, that you would assume that they are doing it, but then you would be again gaslighting yourself and realizing that man, the training didn't work. Well, it wasn't the training that didn't work; and I do have the secrets to that. How do you train people to make this work? And that team did not do what the most effective way of training would be.
So, do you have, I mean, golly, even just something as simple as that, do you say their name? Do you have your top three things for anybody listening if you want to improve
Mhm.
your ability to have connection with people? Because that's staggering. In one sense, I would just assume, but I think you're absolutely right. One, we lack visibility in the field and in the call centers because we don't have AI set up to do the monitoring. I know Rilla is a device that people are using more and more for door knockers or even running appointments just to record what's happening so that they can see, okay, what point of the conversation is there a spike and people are engaging more? At what point are they asking questions and falling off, etc. So I think even just having that visibility allows for inbuilt accountability. But what are the other, let's say, two more things? So asking their name. What else have you found really move the needle that are just kind of almost like of course, I can't believe we never think of that.
Well, if you look up my keynote speech on Rilla, I was a keynote speaker for them at their event. It's called
Mm-hmm.
it's called "The Manager is Dead, Long Live the Coach." That's the name of the speech. So I encourage you to go listen to it because
Yes.
there's a lot there, a lot of meat on the bone in that talk. It's an hour talk. I followed Nick Saban right after. I got off the stage and Nick Saban's going, "That was a great talk, dude." I'm like, "Are you Nick Saban?" And like I couldn't even believe it was Nick Saban complimented me on how great the talk was. I'm like, dude, I can't even believe Nick
Wow.
Saban. I think this is the height of my life. I don't think I'm going to get any better. I didn't even know he was going to be there, and he's right. He's right. It's like he gives me a hug and shakes my hand at the end of the talk, and I was like, man, this is an amazing day. But I think get back to it. Rilla, my work with Rilla, I've done a lot of work with that Sebastian and the Jimenez and the people there at Rilla, and I was a coach that works with them.
Mhm.
We found that if you can use the client's first name at least 7 times throughout the call, you're on the right track to establishing what's called the halo effect, which is that there's something I like about this person. I'm just not sure what it is. The fact is that they keep using my name, Christine, like
Right.
I've used yours. I'm trying to get to at least 7. I'm not
I've
counting it, but
noticed.
but
No,
I'm
I've
not
noticed.
counting it.
I had a feeling.
I'm not counting it, but I figured, what better to call you than your own name? And of course, now that I got permission, and I keep using it. But yeah, I think that's number one. One of the first things, are we at least on a first name basis?
Yes.
If you're, and by the way, if you're talking to a couple, like a husband and wife, or there's a female who runs the office and a male who runs the general manager. If you only talk, if you're a guy, sometimes we're more comfortable talking to other guys. So you may now not talk to the woman, even though she's a key part of the decision process. So I think, just be a student. Like, here's a good one.
Mhm.
Like people in the trades think like, oh no, I got this Indian customer or Asian customer. Ah, man, these people never buy anything. And I'm like, you do realize Indian people and Asian people have more money than any of us. Like the average, like like they're professionals. They don't just come to this country. If you ask the Indian person how they got here, it's because they went to school at like USC for medical or whatever. They went they work at the
Mhm.
CLEC, at the medical place up here, and they're a doctor or they're an assistant in the medical industry. So they have money. But here's the thing I always tell people. I say, so when you're talking to somebody like that, you find out their name and use it. And then I think you'll be the only normal person that actually uses their name, probably. Like, that's really, it's strange. He uses my name. And then secondly, I just say, are you from Los Angeles? No, no, I'm from India. I'm like, really? What part? Jodhpur. And I'm like, can you show me where that's at on your phone? He goes, yeah, yeah, let me show you. And if you got an Indian guy or a guy from China showing you where they're from on their phone, you're there. Does that make sense here? Because
Yeah.
you're interested in the person, and I think that's really an easy thing to do, that anybody could do just
Mhm.
to learn more about them. And number one, that's really number one. Number two is don't put the technical part of the job. I'll just put it this way: are you making statements about the technical part of the job, or are you asking the customer questions?
Right.
So instead of telling people things about your service or your solution or yourself, why don't you ask people about what they how they use the service? Who first discovered the problem? What did they say when they said it? What did the rest of the team say when they found it? If it's a commercial thing, learning to be a student is the second part. And is the person delivering information with statements, or are they delivering information in the form of a question? Is another key thing that creates high value. Does that make sense, Christine?
Yes.
And also information security. Giving the information about the solution too early in the call or when you talk to people, you lose value. I mean, here's the biggest kiss of death is telling people the problem you see right here in front of them. How much is it going to cost for this thing, and telling what it costs, and you just keep doing that over and over again. And then what? You told people like 10 problems and 10 prices. How are they supposed to remember all that stuff, right? So it's bad service to not have information security. Hold on to the information, just talk about the people and ask questions about the people and how they use the solution and why they think the solution could be good for them. And then say,
Right.
hey, you know what? I got enough information. Let me go ahead and give you some premium, mid range, and economy choices. And you can pick the one that's right for you. What do you think of that? And then people just then say, and then I have the famous words, here's the prices. What should we do?
Yes.
That's it. What should we do? Make
What
sense?
should we do? I love it. Joe, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate the extent that you've gone to really invest in people. It's the investment in the actual individual that allows for the growth that they can be able to speak to these levels that you're kind of engaging with them on. So thank you for that. And I'm grateful you've been here. Can you tell us how we can stay in touch with you and how we can learn more about you?
Sure. You can find me, Joe Crisara, Crisara, on LinkedIn or Facebook or Twitter, or you can try to change the channel, but I'm on all of them, Christine. So
I love
you're
Wonderful. Well,
probably
Joe,
one. Your phone's probably listening to this right now, and it's gonna be next thing you know, it's like, hey, that's that guy.
that's
With
that
the
guy right now.
wonderful
They're going to see you
You can
everywhere.
find me. Just go to Service MVP if you want to, and we have a little chat there, chat bot. It'll answer for you. My AI will make an appointment for us if you'd like to, and I'd love to talk to you. Anybody here who needs advice, it won't cost you anything to get the actual advice. It may cost you money to help implement the advice because it would take time for me to do that. And if I had to take time from my family and my team, then there would be an investment for that. But
Absolutely.
getting advice is free. I don't charge for advice. Thank you, Christine, for having me here, and thanks for all the effort and service you provide this community. I'm really proud of you and what you do. Thank you for allowing me to be here today.
Wonderful. Well, I'm so grateful, Joe. Thank you. Y'all, thank you so much for tuning in. I will see you tomorrow. And I hope you have a wonderful day. Talk soon.